Hey Paige, it is 3:21 p.m. on January the 17th, 2017, and I am making this video to demonstrate what I've learned studying David's horses so far. So this video I'm going to start with Napoleon crossing the Alps. I'm going to demonstrate why the horse in this painting is biologically impossible, and therefore it's a work of fiction designed to illustrate female submission to the male. So first of all, when Napoleon was crossing the Alps, he would have been riding a mule, not a horse. War horses like that were very expensive, very rare, and very hard to maintain. So he would be riding a mule because, say, if it broke its leg, if it tripped, if it fell off the side of the mountain, which was totally possible back then, a mule is more hardy, easier to ride, easier to control, and more disposable in the case of something bad would happen. Second, this horse is not proportional. If it stood normally with, if it came down out of the ring position and onto the ground, by its bone measurements, the legs would be way too short, the body is way too short, and the neck is way too long. And if we know anything about David's recordings of the death of Marat, I could be pronouncing that wrong, but M-A-R-A-T, and his recordings of human anatomy, he is very good at depicting accurate anatomy and could have depicted this horse accurately if he wanted to, but chose not to. Also, as a horse person, the first thing I noticed was that the hindquarters of this horse are way too round, entirely too round. That position that the horse is in is the single most strenuous position that a horse can be trained to assume, putting all of its weight on its hind legs. The muscles in its hindquarters would be very sharp, defined clearly through the skin, especially in a horse as muscular as a French war horse, and it would create more of a triangular shape. Just to demonstrate, here is also a picture of a horse that is of this, I'm going to say the same breed. I'll explain that more in a minute, but that's standing still. And clearly its hindquarters are still in a triangular position. If it was going to be round, it would be standing still, and it's still not. So thus, if you look at the hindquarters of this horse, the only possible thing it can reference is the human female hindquarters. It is clearly round and the same color as a white female's bottom. So second is, what breed is this horse? Napoleon was known to favor Arabian horses because they're smaller, and fun fact, he was not actually that good of a rider. They were easy to control. So if you look at this horse, it has black spots on each side of its head. I'm assuming they're symmetrical, but black spots on its head, and a black spot on its chest. Now, when a horse has spots like that with distinct lines that are not gradient, that's considered a spot pattern, such as Tabino, Overo, anything along those lines. And Arabian horses, it is physically, biologically, genetically impossible for an Arabian horse to be that color. A purebred Arabian horse, of course, which he would have had. They also don't have the big, thick, curly mane that this horse has. Arabians are very small, very slim, very skinny built horses. They don't look anything like this. So a horse that looks kind of more like this one with the big curly mane and the thicker build would be either an Andalusian or a Lusitano horse, which were very popular war horses in Europe, especially in France. But it is also genetically impossible for those horses to be spotted. It's actually, sorry, I got a little tied up in my words, but the spotting in animals is actually related to the gene for domestication. It's been noted since animals were first domesticated that as the genes for domestic animals were perfected, spot patterns started to emerge, such as spotted dogs, black spots on pigs, spots on horses. So the more domestic animals became, the more spots they would have. So my conclusion of this is, because of the lack of biological and anatomical accuracy, when David clearly had the skills and precision available to record anatomical accuracy, the presence of a mane that resembles female hair and doesn't have any basis in a breed of horse that could be used in that scenario, and the hindquarters clearly resembling that of the female form rather than of a horse assuming that position, This horse is entirely fictional and is a metaphor for male domination of the female. So next I'm going to be making a video about the other model for a horse that I found of David's, the Portrait of the Count. So I'll see you in the next video.